Round one in the books. Welcome in, welcome back. If you're here on a recurring basis, that is. If it's new for you, welcome in. Connor O'Neill joining me live once again. Wade Zanketta as usual. Connor, we had 3 games this weekend. We can spend a bit more time talking about what the hell went down. But I kind of want to start with the Laurier Golden Hawks.
Yeah, I do too, because I think this one for sure will be the quickest one. Absolutely. 69-0 win for Laurier in the Battle of Waterloo playoff edition. Taylor Elgersma. It was the Taylor Elgersma show in this one. Almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, had one with his legs. What can't this guy do?
Every running back had a day as well. Tanner Nelms, 9 for 155. Quentin Scott, 10 for 90. And the GRT, 13 for 84, each one registering a touchdown. But no, like you said, this was all about Elgersma. 20 of 22 through the air.
8 of those for 150, basically 150, 149, and 2 touchdowns to Ethan Jordan. Other receivers in this one that had big days. Quentin Scott, again, not a receiver, but a running back.
Yeah,
most of his 2 opportunities.
He took a 53-yarder to the house. That was he made one guy miss, and it was just clean sailing. I do have to say, though, for this team, the Laurier Golden Hawks, a little pissed off after last week's loss, it looked like. And it really looked like they had an emphasis on coming out fast. We know it took them a whole half to get going the week prior. 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. One, I believe, on their opening drive of the game, Connor. This team was ready. They are angry. And we've talked about this with other teams in years past, but when you're undefeated, you almost want to have that loss before you get in the playoffs, right? Like, it's nice to say you had an undefeated season, but to have one before you get in kind of gives you guys a taste of what they don't want in the postseason.
No, I completely agree. I think it was a bitter pill to swallow in the loss to Western, but I definitely think there is a learning opportunity there. And I mean, should it happen, I think it'd be a great game, but I don't know if Laurier is a team that anybody, not even just Western, but anybody wants to see in the playoffs right now, because they're certainly rolling. They look mighty angry, like you said, after the loss going into the playoffs to Western. I'm excited to see it again this weekend with their matchup coming up against the Windsor Lancers. I think that's going to be a really fun game.
Yeah, now these 2 teams did match up a couple weeks ago, and it was all Golden Hawks, but Laurier certainly clicking at a different level than what we saw during the regular season. Like, we didn't see this outside of the Guelph game, but the defense showed up, special teams showed up, and of course, Elgersma, as we mentioned, definitely showed up on the day.
All right, where do you want to jump to now? Do you want to go to the Limestone City?
Yeah, let's talk
some final game of the season.
Let's talk some ground game and defense, man, because as nice of a game as Russell Weir played, and I think this was his best game as a starter, 13 of 19, 222 yards. The interception was the only point where, you know what, they were in control, they were driving, they had all the momentum, and he makes a great play, escapes the rush, rolls out, and then just lets one go. And I was standing with Tanner DeYoung on the sidelines as we're watching, and he goes, oh, that did not come out the way he wanted it to. And it just kind of floated up into the air for the interception. But other than that, he controlled the game. Easy, quick passes until they decided to take some shots. And my, oh my, did he have ever. Cedric Smith down the right sidelines. It was a 40-yard catch. Connor, there was a half a yard separation between Kevin Victome, Cumberbatch, Cedric Smith, and the sidelines. And Russell Weir put it perfectly on the outside shoulder in the basket for his receiver.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this was by far Weir's best game of the season as a starter with the Gales. But I think a guy like Jared Chisari makes his job a lot easier. When you have a back that you can give the ball 30 times and he goes for 140, it makes your job as a quarterback a little bit easier because not only is he giving you the yardage output and putting you in good situations offensively, but he's grinding down the GG's defense. And we saw that I think all game long. His ability to kind of keep the offense on the field, wear down that GG's defense. I know it was a tight scoring game, but a lot of these opportunities can be, you know, credited to Chisari for what he was able to do to that defense.
Certainly, and when they're attacking the edges in their power game and their outside zone game, Connor, there's something about Chisari's one cut ability where he needs to set up his blocks. He waits for everyone to flow over, and then perfect timing. Always, he hits that step, cuts back inside, lets his big men up front clear out the way. And there's something to be said about that one step. And let's talk about the fact that Queens, they call it the Hulk package, but it's when they bring in Liam Silverson and number 40, I believe his name is Nicholas Henning. I just pulled it up. They start flexing. That's the signal for Hulk. And that's what they did on the Ottawa GGs. They brought in these two monsters. Connor, I'm not kidding. Both of these guys are like 6'6", 6'7". They are taller than most of the offensive line. And they start pressing on edges. And they allow guys like Theo Grant and Evan Florin to climb to the second level. And that ability to get big pro caliber offensive linemen to the second level free lets the guys like Souls and Chisari have an even easier job, like they need more space to work with.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. Couldn't agree more with that.
I do want to say shout out to Jack Ashby Jacobs. Huge catch down the middle of the field. He was injured on the play, but when he got up, it was like he just scored the game-winning touchdown. He got the crowd back into it after a bit of a lull. But no, I think this Queens offense, we've talked about them finding their identity with the run game and Chisari. But with Alex Freakin still out, Russell Weir's got to be the guy. And they're growing in confidence week in, week out with number 2 at center or behind center, I guess.
Yeah, no, totally. I really like what I've seen. I think that they have something to build on with Weir. And I really like the progression that we've seen so far through the season. Now, he's going to have a tough test coming up next weekend against the Western Mustangs, but we won't dive too far into that one because there still is one final playoff game. And
you don't
it
want
was
to
a
talk
tight
about your
one.
Ottawa GGs? You
Oh
don't
yeah, I
want to
guess
talk about your
we
GGs.
should. What did you were there, you were at field, you were field level. You said you have some stuff that you want to talk about with the GGs. So let's hear it. Let's hear the thoughts from the guy that was in the stadium for this one.
13 of 24 for Josh Jansen. Okay. It was a tough game. We know Queens' defense is really physical. They're really good at getting to the quarterback. But Connor, you have weapons, namely Charles Asselin and Nicholas Gendron, who are fantastic, speedy options. To me, when the run game was going with Asselin in the first half, they were able to move the ball. What I found was missing as they went into the stretch run was getting these athletes out into space. When you look at Queens and the way they attacked Ottawa's really strong rush defense, which Queens has one as well, it was a lot of run action and then quick screen game out, let guys get into space and make players miss. Aiden O'Neill had more catches than Mélenchon and Gendron combined. And to me, just giving guys of their caliber that opportunity to make plays out in space is what is going to allow this offense to progress even further when it seemingly stalled out in the second half.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. You need to give the opportunities to your playmakers to make something happen. You need to get guys like Mélenchon or Gendron in space. I mean, again, like we saw with the Queens offense, where Chisari was kind of the catalyst for those types of plays happening. Charles Asselin had a good game in his own right. He was going 5.6 yards a carry, but they then need to build off that and get the playmakers the ball more. I mean, Mélenchon and Gendron combined for 5 catches each. And I think that in a game like this, you need to try to utilize them a little bit more, get creative in that sense.
And I mean, it kind of goes back to, like I said in the preview for Waterloo, they've been run dominant all season, but to make a move in the right direction in the playoffs, you need to go through your big time playmakers. And if you look at them targeting Sukar and Basligi to go back a game, 3 catches for 20 yards combined between their two best players offensively. Now, I know Anthony Miller did not play the majority of the game, only 4 rushing attempts. But when you're looking at this Waterloo offense, same thing applies to Ottawa as applies to Waterloo, as applies to Carleton as we kind of shift into that game.
Yeah, that Windsor Carleton game. I mean, slow start for both teams, especially the Windsor Lancers in this one, I think. But Carleton, the opportunities were there for them, I think, to kind of take over this game. But I agree. I think it's the same thing in this one where Windsor, despite their kind of early game struggles, Windsor was able to get it going with their kind of power players, their star players, so to speak. Whereas Carleton, I mean, when you look at it, I know Cassine Ferdinand had 9 for 43, but that's really it. There are other big playmakers in this one: 3 catches, 30 yards, 3 catches, 77 yards on a long one. So
Yeah, I think with this one, Connor, like you said, it took a while for these teams to get going, but the pivotal one for me was Carleton had a first and goal from the 3 yard line, and 3 straight plays in a row. They hammered away Alex Gale in the inside run. They didn't slice anyone. They didn't pull anyone. They didn't even give Tristan Lefebvre the option to pull it on the 3rd down when they sent a +1, the Lancers did, and it was clear from the snap of the ball that that was not going to fly. Um, Alex Gale just stopped short all 3 times on the goal line. And for Windsor, their offense struggled, but their defense held tough in the red zone. You talk about that stop on the goal line there, the interception late in the game when Carleton walks down the field with a chance to win. They stood tall when it mattered most, and their offense certainly didn't do them any favors. We're going to get to that topic in a second. But for Carleton, lots to grow on from this game, lots to grow on from this season. Not the outcome they wanted, but Lefebvre showed good progress. Alex Gale showed great progress in the backfield as well. These receivers are stacked up. They're going to get better year over year. It's going to be a good team in the future, and their defense played lights out. I cannot talk enough positive notes about this Carleton defense.
yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to like going into the future with this team. Like you said, the young players that you mentioned, the leadership that they've gained, the poise that they're going to go on building in the next season. But yeah, that defense is something special. I know they lost the game, but again, it was a tight game, and I definitely don't think you credit the defense for the loss because they had 3 takeaways early in this game on Danny
Well,
Skelton.
they had 4 takeaways total in the game. A fumble, 3 picks, like you said, the
Yeah.
3 on Danny Skelton. Connor, this defense was lights out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. As was Windsor's though, I think when they needed it most. Like we talked about that goal line stand, but their defensive line combined for 2 sacks in this one. Harrison Daly had an interception to himself. There's a forced fumble by Coletta Musin in this game as well. So Windsor was getting their takeaways in there. Like Windsor was getting their own takeaways as well, putting themselves in good position. And I think Windsor ultimately just capitalized one more time than Carleton did. If they had some of that magic from the Waterloo game, different story. I think it really could have gone either way in this one. Both these teams defensively were playing really well.
And all the credit in this one for Windsor offensively, Connor, has to go to Nick Domovsky. I mean, Danny Skelton, 3 interceptions, 9 of 15, which doesn't sound too bad, but the 3 interceptions were killers.
Yeah.
I believe he was also the one that coughed up the ball on the phone. Oh, sorry, Brady Lidster was on the block kick, but they tried to run the ball, wasn't as successful as they're used to, and Danny Skelton really just choked this one as much as he could away. And Nick Domovsky came in when it was tight, when it mattered, 4 of 5, 89 yards, a touchdown, and it gave the Lancers all they needed to change the outcome of this one.
Yeah, the decision to go with Nick Domovsky is a tough decision, not only for your coaching staff, your quarterback, for Domovsky himself, but you're right. Like he stepped up, went 4 or 5, delivered the touchdown when they needed it. I think asking him to do what they did, as hard as it was, I mean, it shows the character of a guy like Domovsky and honestly Skeleton too, because that's a hard situation have to deal with for yourself as the starting quarterback. You're not having the game that you want to be having, but he was still his. What am I trying to say?
Boys.
But no, but on the sideline as a teammate, like it's not like he was kicking his helmet around, head down on the bench or anything. Like obviously there was still you saw that he still wanted to win the game and was happy for Domofsky when he was making the plays.
Yeah, no, I really credit JP Circelli, the coach of Windsor, for making this choice. But it brings up some questions for next week as they have to host or go to, sorry, those pesky Laurier Golden Hawks. Are you going to double down with Skelton after a 3-interception performance? Or are you going to go to Domofsky, who finished strong on the day? I don't know, but for Windsor, I think this was more of a survive and advance moment than anything. I mean, talk about Carleton's defense with Louis Laveau and Agamudu. Connor, Giovanni Cunningham had 1 catch. It was a really good day for Carleton's defense. A tight game. If you love defense, this week, except for the Laurier game, was all for you. Next week, we've got semifinals. We're up. We're ready. Two more to go in the OUA slate before we get to decide who's fighting for the title.
It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be a great weekend of football. There's good matchups, as we said. Queens will be taking on the Western Mustangs. Windsor playing those Laurier Golden Hawks who are coming off that big win. Another difficult defensive challenge for Windsor, and I think that's going to be a really good defensive game. Not to get too far ahead of myself on these, but I don't get to join you during the week anymore, so I got to say my piece where I can get it in.
All right. Well, that's it for our recap this week. Enjoy the week as usual. We will catch up multiple times throughout the week. I know I missed Thursday last week, got a little busy, but there were some good games. So stay tuned for later this week. Maybe Connor's going to be on the Tuesday episode. We don't know. We don't know. As always, at Connor R. O'Neill, at Wade Zang, at CF Perspective, your home for OUA football. Check us out as we head down the home stretch.